Good Monday afternoon, everybody. It's Jim, it's Matt, and Matthew, what a heck of a weekend we had. Let's start with the colleges. Um, when we talked on Friday, I think we both thought, well, maybe, just maybe, Tulane and James Madison would, play respected games against the opposition in the playoffs, and neither one of them did much.
Yeah, the way that the James Madison score looks a lot more respectable,
Mhm.
in totality. But they kind of did really similar to what happened with Clemson and Texas last year,
Mhm.
where Texas was in control for the first half of the football game. Clemson came back. Now, obviously, that was a lot closer when Clemson came back. So it's definitely not a 1-to-1 comparison. But
Mhm.
yeah, they were just outmatched entirely. What I do want I don't think this should eliminate the G5's path into the
Right.
playoffs, but what it does need to eliminate is the ability for them to figure out how to get two G5 teams in there. That's just it's unnecessary.
Well, yeah, I agree with you. The other part of the equation is that the quality of play in the Sun Belt um, really just isn't. You know, they couldn't have. But if I had to guess, and let's say Tulane and James Madison played, I think Tulane would probably beat James Madison.
It's possible. James Madison's offense looked decent at points during that game.
Right.
Their offense was respectable. They just weren't at the talent level of either of the two schools. And
Right.
there's nothing against what they did this year, nothing
No.
against them as teams, but just on the field when you have a team
Mm-hmm.
that gets your like they were getting Tulane was getting Ole Miss's full focus. Ole Miss
Sure.
was not looking forward to the next game.
Mm-hmm.
Oregon was giving James Madison their full focus. They were not looking up,
Mm-hmm.
thinking about this next game. So when you have that dynamic involved, because that's really where the upsets tend to come from.
Mm-hmm.
They come when people aren't paying attention, really, um, all things considered, and that's where you got to catch them off guard, and that's just not applicable
I
in
got
this
it.
scenario.
Go ahead. Yes. No, I was just going to say. Um, there was a straw poll put out, um, by a group of former coaches in college football, and they basically said that if they move to a 16-team playoff, which looks very possible, that then they should do away with conference championship games. And your thoughts on that one?
I to be honest with you, I cut out or something. I didn't hear the back end of that.
That's okay. I was just saying that before we get into the games real quick, given all it's been happening with the teams that got into the playoffs, um, when they get to a 16-team playoff, which is likely to happen, not maybe in the next 4 or 5 years, um, a poll of old coaches who participated in all of the major power conferences, overwhelmingly said they should forget the championship games and just go directly into playoffs and not force teams to play that extra championship game because it's basically meaningless.
Yeah, it really is. It's tough to find a way in a 16-team model where you're going to really be able to justify the conference
Mhm.
championships, and finding meaning in them, which it sucks. Um, I think that's the only way to put it. It sucks that conference championships will become meaningless, but it's something that was already in danger of happening, and
Mm-hmm.
to a larger extent, kind of has,
Mm-hmm.
even in this format. Because like you look at the Big Ten title and the SEC title, those games didn't matter.
Right.
Bama got blown out; they still made the playoff.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing. All Ohio State and Indiana did was switch spots from 2 to 1.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so there wasn't a lot of repercussion. Um, you know, BYU could have earned their way in if they had won
Right.
the conference championship, but that didn't happen. And I guess the consequence, the ACC titles matter probably the most out of all of the Power Four conference titles, simply because it led to the shakeup that was Notre Dame falling out.
Right. Absolutely. All right. So we saw Alabama beat Oklahoma, then Miami get by Texas A&M, and then of course you just talked about James Madison and Oregon, and of course Tulane dropped the game to Ole Miss. Um, I don't think there's any surprises in that package, but perhaps the Alabama game in how it unfolded, and the Miami game and how it unfolded were probably the two biggest surprises of the weekend.
Yeah, I came away, and this is going to sound at least in the first game, the better team lost the football game on Friday night.
Mm-hmm.
Like you go back and look and talk about the bounce of ball plays going one way, and they went almost exclusively Alabama's way.
Mm-hmm.
They, in credit to them, they played a lot better in the second half. Even they got the bounce of ball plays to put them into position to where they played a little bit better in the second half, I think, than Oklahoma did, especially on the offensive side of the football. But throughout the full 60 minutes of the game, Alabama was not the better team. And that's going to happen, especially when you have the bounce of ball plays like that. When I talked about James Madison's path, they really needed some of the stuff that Alabama had happen for them to go their way if they were going to have a shot. And credit to Bama, they found a way. But that post game press conference they had, man, it really did sound like the national championship was played in Norman, Oklahoma on Friday night.
I'm going to get a lot of people angry at me. I'm sorry. I don't care. I am sick and tired of Alabama fans. I just can't take it anymore. It's like, oh, great. Now we beat Oklahoma. They're already charting their path to a championship. And it's like none of these other teams matter because, we beat Oklahoma. So, we're on our way. Well, good on you. You did beat Oklahoma. No question about that. But there is still a path to get there, and you still have to play the games, and you're not necessarily as good as the teams you're going to have to face.
Yeah, I mean they're still a very flawed team. If Bama fans wanted to watch that game on Saturday night or on Friday night and think that they weren't a flawed team, then I guess they're living in a different world than I am. They still have their flaws, but credit to them. I really thought that defense was going to do a lot better job for Oklahoma than they did, all things considered. That defense was struggling, especially in the second half, to be able to really stop Alabama, at least in the crucial moments. And then on the other side, John Material in the offense could not get it figured out in the second half, not with any form of consistency. And I think Oklahoma, I go back and it's not that play on its own, but there's the play where John Mateer was able to escape a free blitzer.
Yeah.
He rolled out to his left, and he had like 10 yards ahead of him, just of wide open grass where he could have picked up a first down. And he threw it deep. And all things considered, pass wasn't bad, but it didn't get caught. It's not the safe play. You're up 10. You go get that first down, you're probably looking at scoring again, and you get a momentum shift when the following play isn't you punting the football away, it's your punter just dropping the ball and Alabama picking it up. And I mean, from there on out, they never really got the momentum back. I think Alabama outscored them. What was it? From that point on, I think they outscored them like 27-7 or something like that.
Yeah, it was 20 plus points.
Yeah. So, I mean, that really was the turning point in the game. And you can't. When you're John Mateer, it's tough because you're trying to make the big play, and I get that. Sometimes it's right to take the smart play, but and you can't anticipate that your punter is just going to straight up drop the football on the ensuing play.
So we get on on Saturday, Miami 10, and basically Miami wins 10-3 or 10-3 against Texas A&M. So
Mm-hmm.
Texas A&M doesn't score a touchdown in their own building.
Mm-hmm.
Miami scores one in the field goal. Um, was it a combination of Miami's defense being good and basically saying, let the defense win the game for us because we're going to try not to make mistakes and allow our defense to get it done because neither of those two offenses could do anything.
No, I honestly, I don't think Miami was trying to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, Carson Beck was still they were taking deep shots
Mm-hmm.
with him. Like, it didn't seem like the offense was necessarily in a conservative mode, which is really odd when you look at the final stat line for Mark Fletcher,
Mm-hmm.
who was really their lone bright spot on offense all day, with the exception of Malachi Toney scoring that touchdown.
Right.
He was the cog in the machine. He was the only thing that kept that thing going. And it was the physicality of their offensive line. And they opened up some really big gaps for him to run through.
Mm-hmm.
He averaged 10 yards a carry. For the life of me, it was probably the third quarter, and I was watching him like every run, he's ripping off a good chunk.
Right.
And then they turn around and they throw it, and they're losing downs because they're not being effective through the air. I couldn't figure out why they weren't a little more conservative on offense, given especially the way their defense had played and the way they were able to run the football. But they won that game on both lines of scrimmage.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Texas A&M had some opportunities, but in the same vein, Miami missed 3 field goals.
Mm-hmm.
It was an abysmal day for both teams, special teams wise. But Miami found the lone offense of the day, and it really came from their ability to lean on Texas A&M all afternoon.
In fairness, the wind was terrible. I think that was an issue down there. That being said, to your point, had Miami stuck to the running game, right, and your defense is playing the way it is, you shorten the game. So I would have thought, okay, do we, sure, if you're like a 2nd and 3 or 4 or something like that, and you want to take a shot downfield, go ahead and go for it. But the way they were controlling the ground game, as you said, because of the offensive line, I would have thought that would have been the way to go. But they ended up winning, so good on them. And staying home is Texas A&M. Ole Miss, I wasn't surprised that they did well. 41 points though, that was pretty impressive. I thought Tulane might be able to hold them to a little lesser than that, and the fact that Oregon scored 51 on James Madison didn't surprise me at all.
Yeah, and I mean, it's what you expected. Their offense was fine. Pete Golden got out there and was really beating the table. Be like, Charlie wanted to come back and prove hey, everybody's talking about Lane's not here.
Mm-hmm.
This is Charlie Weiss's this is Charlie Weiss's offense. He said, and it looked good. It was solid all around. They got banged up a little bit.
Yeah.
Did Ole Miss, and I'll be curious to see how that looks going forward. I know he still played. Trinidad Chambliss got banged up. Kawan Lacey got banged up. I think they lost Caleb Odom on the backside defensively. They suffered some injuries in that game that I think it's going to be curious to see just how bad are those injuries, and will they play an impact in New Orleans here in about 10 days, somewhere in there.
Mm-hmm. Well, we'll find out, that's for sure. Next up, for those of you who want to circle your calendar, Wednesday night, December 31st is our next playoff game. That's when Ohio State hosts Miami in the Cotton Bowl in Jerryville, out there in Arlington, Texas. That's a 7:30 start on, of course, ESPN. Then on New Year's Day, this is the one that's odd to me. Just saying the Orange Bowl, at noon, it just doesn't make sense to me. But okay, Texas Tech and Oregon, of course, in the Orange Bowl. That's a noon start on January 1st. Indiana and Alabama in the Rose Bowl. That's a 4:00 game. All these games are on ESPN. And the nightcap, the Dogs from Georgia and the Ole Miss Rebels in an SEC battle at night in the Sugar Bowl down in New Orleans.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I did find the scheduling interesting on those games.
Mm-hmm.
That there's one game of those that's a rematch from a regular season game,
Mm-hmm.
and it's your 8 p.m. game, which I thought was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But that's solid slate. I don't know how many upsets we're really going to be looking at, all things considered. I just early preview. Oregon's probably in a really good spot. They're getting healthy. And it'll be interesting to see. The trend last year was no team that had a first round bye won their game.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be the reseeding is going to make things different. It'll be interesting to see just how much that trend switches around this time.
We've talked a lot about Kenny Dillingham,
mm-hmm.
and it looks like that deal is done for an extension, and for him to stay at Arizona State. He did something I have not yet seen any other coach, and certainly no coach in a Power 4 conference do. And that is Kenny Dillingham went out and on social media and specifically said to the Arizona State fan base and donor class, saying, look, we need to raise between $15 and $20 million. If we can do that, he goes, I can promise you we'll be in the playoffs every year. So Kenny Dillingham, signed a contract. He's built a new house out there in the Scottsdale area where he grew up. His family's out there. His wife's family's out there. And what we talked about all week last week about him in Michigan was that Dillingham just loves to be the guy. And he would, at the end of the day, and I can't fault him for this. I mean, I think we both would think this is a good thing. He would rather go down as the best coach in the history of Arizona State than just another coach in Michigan.
Yeah. And I mean, we talked about it when we discussed Kenny Dillingham and this Michigan job. And that feels like the right choice for Kenny.
Mm-hmm.
It's a place that I think you got this throughout the contract negotiations. The general vibe or sense that was given out was that Kenny Dillingham really wanted to stay at Arizona State, but he just needed some promises from the university,
right?
That really is, as much as he loves Arizona State, I think he kind of needed to be reaffirmed that they also love Arizona State
right.
much as well, which is interesting when you've got people who are in power. Then it feels like you kind of have to question if they really love where they're at. But he signed the contract, so you would assume he got some of the guarantees that he was looking for at Arizona State.
Yeah.
And I did find it interesting. The day after he signed, he had press availability or media availability, and he had said that Michigan never actually offered him a job.
Right. Yeah.
So that makes me curious about what's going on at Michigan right now as well.
You can be cute in that regard, okay? He can say they never offered me a job, and that's possible. His agent could have been sent, like a term sheet or something like that. That's not an offer of a job. Technically, he is absolutely 100% correct. That is what I would give to you if you came here, right? So it's not a formal offer. It is a letter of, basically, here's the parameters of what I could give you if this is something you want to take, if we can take this any further. So let's think about this from this standpoint. I want to hire you, Matt, to be my head coach. You're going to say, all right, and your representative is going to say, all right, well, what is it here that you've got that I might be interested in? And we're not necessarily talking about the dollar and cents amount, right? We're not talking about 5 years at X amount of dollars, right? We're not there yet. I want to know what is it that I'm getting, okay? Meaning, how many coaches am I allowed to have? What kind of facility situation is there? All the underpinnings of what starts the whole thing off. You don't start in a contract negotiation with coaches of any sport without starting at what type of control do I have? Where, how much latitude do I have with the players, uh, with the ability to hire assistant coaches, all that usually comes first. That basically I'm laying out the pitch. I'm giving you the elevator pitch as to why you should be here. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
we'll get to the money soon enough, but what is it? So, is it theoretically possible that they never offered Kenny Dillingham the job? Absolutely, it's theoretically possible that he never received a job offer. I do not believe for 1 minute that he was not his representative. I'll put it this way: I'm not going to say he's a liar. That his representative did not receive something from the University of Michigan.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I think it's the same way as
As Kalen DeBoer,
yeah, when he gets up there and he says, I haven't talked to anybody. That is true. You have not
yeah,
talked to anybody, but
right.
somebody is in association with you.
Jimmy Sexton has, or somebody from Jimmy Sexton's office has.
Mm-hmm.
They're again, it's important for these coaches, right, to have plausible deniability. You
Mm-hmm.
want to be able to say, "Hey, look, I didn't talk to anybody,"
Yeah.
and they're right. They didn't. Did their agent talk to it? Yeah, but that's not me. And they didn't give an offer. I believe, as I said before, that I believe Kenny. I believe Kalen DeVore. Did they receive offers? Probably not. They got the term sheets, and you will. Um, we'll see. Jerry's got a question for us. Let's see what Jerry's got. Will college football ever allow teams to earn their way to the top, or are they still going to be chosen? Technically, it's an interesting question, Jerry. Technically, I believe, and Matt, you can certainly weigh in on this. Um, I think they do earn their way to get there. But there's always subjectivity when it comes to, as Notre Dame. Um,
Mm-hmm.
there's subjectivity as to who are the going to be the chosen ones of of the playoffs, the 12 teams
Mm-hmm.
that make it, and the others that do not.
Yeah.
So, I think you could argue, well, the best teams from each of the conferences are there, um, and they all earned it by getting there.
Mm-hmm.
But, are there teams that get left out that are probably good? Yeah, sure, that
Yeah.
happens. But I think it would be hard to say they didn't earn their way there.
Yeah. The way I look at this is there's a couple different ways. One is there's teams that are always going to receive some preferential treatment. Your Ohio States and Alabamas of the world.
Notre Dame.
Yeah, Notre Dame as well. There's a subset of schools, and if you don't believe me, I've got the example of Ohio State in 2014 getting the benefit of the doubt and making the playoff. Alabama's the first conference champion loser in a decade to
Right.
lose their conference championship and not drop a spot.
Right.
Alabama's the one who got the benefit of not playing in their conference championship and making the 14 playoff for the first time. Those teams have had precedents set for them, or they are the precedent setters in terms of receiving some favorable judgments. But in terms of whether or not teams are chosen, I don't think Indiana was chosen.
No.
They earned that. Texas Tech wasn't chosen.
Mhm.
You can argue as to whether or not they paid for that or they earned it. But
They
regardless,
still got there.
yeah, those kids on that team still earned it for them,
Mhm.
regardless of how much they're getting paid. And so there's a lot of these teams that earn it, and college football as it is now, and honestly, the way everything is now is there's the haves and the have-nots,
Mhm.
and so there's teams that are going to be disproportionately more wealthy and more talent loaded on their rosters. So you're going to get used to seeing them a lot more often, especially some different schools now in the NIL era right now. If Texas Tech continues to do the things that they're doing right now with no guardrails, and they're going to continue to have the success. I would say Ole Miss has earned it. They're not exactly a top tier program, throughout their history. So there are these places and these schools that there's always going to be the top tier that is going to have staying power to a certain extent.
Right.
but there's also schools that will rise and fall from the top as we come and go through this thing. I mean,
Look
if
at
you don't,
Indiana.
yeah,
You know, they are, if you're going to put if you're going to utilizing your philosophy, which I think is a fine one, Indiana's your, number one suspect on that list.
mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, like the rise and the power come they come and go. Vanderbilt and Indiana have not been good in a
Mm-hmm.
while. Indiana's the number one seed. Vanderbilt won 10 games this year. You can take a look at Clemson and Penn State. Those are two teams that are playing each other in the
Pinstripe.
New Era Pinstripe Bowl this year, and not the college football playoff. They're teams that have been really perennial powers for the last decade or so, and right now they're not to be heard of. So teams will rise and fall from the top. There's staying power in certain brands, but the odds of somebody staying at the top forever are zero.
Yeah, and to put a button on this too, if we go to 16 teams, which is not an if but a when, at that point we really are in a league of professional football.
Yeah.
Because there's no way that when you get to 16 teams, there's no way they can play championship games. That's not going to happen, and you will not be able to compete in that arena if you're not spending the most money to get there.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And I think what we're seeing now is the transition from the traditional athletic director to the general manager of what becomes, you're basically the sports czar of the university, and then the university has its now, they all have them, collectives where they're collecting money from donors outside of the athletic department. So in essence, the athletic department is a professional organization, and those who get, like a Texas Tech and others, who get there quick enough to realize, okay, we have to run this like a professional operation, and we can't do the AD deal anymore because the AD doesn't get it. I think they're going to be the ones that benefit, and certainly Texas Tech. You can complain all you want to about all the money they spent, but spending money doesn't always get you winning teams. In this case, it did.
Yeah.
They invested money well, but again, those kids had to play, and they had to play, and they had to win, and they did exactly what they had to do. You can, as you said earlier, you can bitch all you want to, but at the end of the day, those, they deserve to be there.
Yeah. And well, my mind just went blank for some reason.
Happens to me all the time.
I just completely forgot what I was going to say there. No, but that's what I was going with, is just because you spend the money and you have the money does not guarantee success.
Right.
We talked about
it
in baseball with the Mets. Like the Mets spent a shitload of money last offseason. It didn't buy them a playoff appearance.
Nope.
So there's no guarantees in spending your money that it's got to work out. You still got some stuff that you have to do on the back end. But what it does give you is the top of the line talent to compete with everybody else.
It gives you a chance, and that's all you really need. So let's flip over to those who are pay for play on Sundays. Epic game on Saturday night between the Bears and the Packers, where you could have tuned in, as I accidentally did. I fell asleep. I tuned in, and it was 4 minutes left to go. The Bears were down, and I'm like, well, I'll just watch. It's only 4 minutes. I'll watch the end of it. And gosh, I'm glad I did. The Bears came back, beat Green Bay, and now they're cemented their place in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, really, for a team that could not find offense for the entirety of the game.
Yeah.
And what I will say is, boy, would we be talking in a different light if they hadn't found a way to do that? Because Malik Willis was the quarterback for the majority of that football game for Green Bay. What they did, like you got to talk about it with Tampa Bay earlier in the year. We talked about it a bunch of times. When it comes to football, is find ways to win. If you find ways to win, then at the end of the day, people can nitpick holes, but you're still on the winning side. And for the Bears, now they're making the playoffs. They didn't have their full complement of weapons either. I know Luther Burden was out, so they were missing some pieces as well. But credit to them, they found a way, and you could tell how much it meant to that team to win that game, because for a while the Packers have the Packers have been a thorn in the Bears' side for a very long time,
decades.
Especially when Aaron Rodgers was there. I mean, they've again, the Green Bay's had the luxury of they rolled them in and rolled them out in terms of the quarterbacks. And the same hasn't been going for the Bears, but they've gotten the best of them this season.
Yeah. Right now, the Seahawks are your number 1 seed. The Bears are your number 2 seed. Your number 3 seed at the moment are the Eagles, and they're playing horribly. The Rams are your number 5 seed, but they could easily pop up there and be more than that. We'll see. I mean, there's still time for that to happen. The 49ers are your 6th seed at the moment. In the American Conference, in the AFC, only the Broncos and Patriots have clinched playoff spots. In the hunt, let's go over to the AFC. We got the Jaguars, who did a number out in Denver yesterday. The Steelers at the moment hold down that 4th spot. Chargers hold down a place in the hunt at this moment. The Bills, again, Texans playing their best football of the year so far. On the bubble, we got the Colts, the Ravens in that area. We can talk about that game. We talked about the game with the Bears. The game between the Steelers and the Lions might have been one of the weirdest endings I've ever seen in my 50 years of watching professional football. That was absolutely crazy.
Yeah, it was. I mean, what I will say is offensive pass interference on that touchdown they scored was 100% the correct call.
Yeah.
Obviously they had a false start there that backed them up a little bit more. The last play of that game, and I'm sure that in the rule book it's the correct way to announce it and call it and this, that, and the other.
You mean burying the lead? Yes.
Yeah, but to start it off by basically informing the crowd that it was a touchdown. Oh, by the way, it doesn't matter. Is like, what are you doing? You're just riling them up. Like, they booed them off the field, and the call was correct. There's nothing wrong with the call, but I mean, they deserve to be booed off the field. They got them fired up for absolutely no reason. Like,
well, the picture that I was just couldn't believe and amazingly thought it was epic was literally standing on the field together at the same time as the officials were explaining what was going on was Aaron Rodgers standing right next to Jared Goff. And you saw, if you ever thought that Goff was standing there as if he was absolutely, he was listening to something and he was trying to process it, right? Aaron Judge has got a big smile on his face. Now, if it's a touchdown, I'm pretty sure Aaron isn't smiling at that point. He is likely being, somber. Meanwhile, Jared Goff's trying to think, okay, wait a minute, what happened here? We got a play on. We got this deal, but we didn't get what the touchdown didn't count. Okay, because of and they explained it all. And as you're right, because the crowd went nuts. They thought when he said touchdown, they go, wow, we walked this one off. Great. How amazing. Oh, by the way, just one last thing. It didn't count.
Yeah.
It didn't count because of the pass interference, which was a blatant pass interference, but okay.
Yeah. That was some, both times it was called, correct call, blatant offensive pass interference both times. It's a wild way to end it. I don't understand because, I'm going back. I'm sure it's like they have to announce it that way.
Sure, they have to go in process, right? They go
but you
detail. Yeah.
You want to talk about pissing off a fan base.
Right.
And they're not out of it entirely. Detroit isn't with that loss. They
No,
still
they're
have they
close.
still have some playoff life.
Yeah.
And if they don't make the playoffs this year, I will emphasize I don't think this is the end of the world. They suffered a lot of injuries in that secondary, and they just quite frankly have not been able to backfill it properly. It's been a bit of a down year from them, but I don't think it's something that is necessarily a sign of things to come in the coming years.
I will say that if you look at what's going on with Pittsburgh's offensive line and the way that suddenly, um, you know, Aaron Rodgers has figured out, how the offense works best for him. They've won 3 games in a row. They've played, you know, pretty solid in those, and they seem to have gotten better as the time goes by. And I'm not predicting that they're headed for a Super Bowl, but I am thinking that they have turned the corner enough to win that division.
Yeah. Yeah, they've taken control of it. I'm not even sure. I think the Ravens might be eliminated from the playoff.
No, if Pittsburgh beats Cleveland,
Then
they
they're
get
done.
they're done. Or if they lose a game, now they play. Remember, they play Saturday night. It's the Ravens at the Green Bay Packers. The Packers have to win that game.
Okay.
It's an important game for the Packers. Going to Lambeau Field, if you got to win a football game, and the home team does. Now, what we don't know is if Lamar Jackson's going to play. He got a bruised back in the game against the Patriots. The amazing stat that from the Ravens situation is no team, and this is during the Jim Harbaugh era of coaching, no team in the history of the National Football League has lost more double-digit fourth-quarter leads than the Baltimore Ravens under Jim Harbaugh. I'm sorry, under John Harbaugh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's the kind of stat that can get you fired.
yeah, it is. And if I recall correctly, I think they actually built their lead with Tyler Huntley in a quarterback.
They did.
So they've got they were able to figure it out really with him at quarterback. And it's no excuse as to why you lost that football game. It's one that you had, in your grasp, and it's one that you needed to have really if you were going to maintain any form of true life in terms of that divisional race and finding the playoffs, because you're not going to find the playoffs in terms of getting a wild card spot. That's just not going to happen. You would have to win that division. And the Pittsburgh Steelers are getting better. And the Baltimore Ravens, even though it seemed like maybe they were on the upturn, now with Lamar Jackson getting hurt and following it up with that loss, losing in the fashion that they did, it really makes you feel like they're not mathematically eliminated, but they feel pretty much done in terms of their postseason hopes.
Well, here's what I can't figure out, and I assume later in the day when John Harbaugh holds his press conference, we'll hear something about it. To your point about Tyler Huntley, getting down there, it was Henry who did all the heavy lifting.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he ran, ridiculously. He was pushing himself. He didn't get carried after the 10-minute mark in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
He was on the bench for the remainder of the 10 minutes of the fourth quarter.
Yeah, those are the kind of decisions that they don't make sense. Like optically, they don't make sense. You're gonna have questions about it, and deservedly so, because when you have a running back like Derrick Henry, he's a kind of guy where you realistically you want the lead late and the ability to give the ball to him and just let him salt it away.
Right, bleed the clock.
Yeah, Yeah, and they didn't do it.
Mm.
I will not understand. What I do understand is this thought process of when people have a lead late, well, we just need to try to sit on the ball.
Mm-hmm.
It, coming in with that mentality can get you in danger, and I understand that. So you need to take some risks, keep the defense honest, keep things balanced, even when you feel like the game is within reach
Mm-hmm.
in terms of your clock management. But to not run your star running back at all in the last 10 minutes, it's unacceptable, really, from a play calling standpoint. And maybe that came from John Harbaugh, maybe that came from Todd Monken. I don't know who it came from, but somebody's got to answer some questions.
Well, yeah, and the thing too that I couldn't, you know, you're down. You don't have Lamar Jackson, right? If you don't have Henry in the backfield, then the only guy on the field that can beat you is Zay Flowers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And if I know that and you know that, then I'm pretty sure that Mike Grable knows that.
yeah. Like like Keaton Mitchell was effective in limited snaps,
Mm-hmm.
but he's coming back from his ACL tear. So what made him valuable was his speed, and he doesn't have that all the way back
Right.
just yet. Um, DeAndre Hopkins is not the DeAndre Hopkins of old. He's not going to really win a lot of one-on-ones. He's really going to get his receptions when they're in zone coverage. And Mark Andrews is really the only other guy on the field that can honestly beat you in man coverage. But even then, now you're asking Tyler Huntley to run the offense with two legitimate weapons
Mm-hmm.
without Derrick Henry on the football field.
Well, and Derrick Henry, why did you go get him? Why did you sign him if you didn't sign him to carry you through? If you look at the Pittsburgh game, okay, they were getting 8 and 10 yards on the ground, which allowed Aaron Rodgers to go deep 2 or 3 times. One time he hit it, one time he didn't. But point is, he wasn't even touched because of the fact that they had to pay attention to the run.
Yeah,
And the Ravens, took a totally opposite idea to that, and that was, we have to throw the ball to get it going somewhere. Well, guys, that's not something you do well, even under their good circumstances. This has not been a good season for them, on the receiving side, other than Zane Flowers.
and it's odd because it feels like something that's really been a point of emphasis every offseason uh, since Lamar Jackson took over is that receiver room. There's not a lot of star power in that receiver room. To be honest with you, there's not been a lot of reliability in that receiver room since Lamar Jackson's taken over at quarterback. They've made it a point of emphasis. They've drafted like it. They drafted Rashad Bateman. They drafted Zay Flowers.
Mm-hmm.
They've drafted a bunch of these guys since Lamar's taken over, and yet they still haven't really been able to find a lot of staying power or top end receiver in that offense. And I don't know for whatever reason that is, but it has once again reared its head um, when you no longer have Lamar Jackson at the helm. And quite frankly, they talked about it. It was a point of emphasis on the broadcast last night
Mm-hmm.
for whatever reason that is. Even when Lamar Jackson was in the game, he has not been the Lamar Jackson of old. He's been hurt a lot this year, and so to expect him to have the same type of quickness that really has made him as special as he is. And that's not to say he's come along as a passer a lot throughout his career.
Yeah, he's
Um,
learned. He's become much better at it.
yeah, so he's now a really good thrower of the football. That's not necessarily an issue, but it takes away an aspect of his game that's really important.
Well, his wheels aren't there. I mean, you can tell it. Can
Hmm.
he still run? Yes, absolutely, he can still run. Can he beat you running? Under circumstances, yeah. But if you've got, Derrick Henry in the game and, Lamar in the game, and they're doing a run pass option, you're screwed because either one of these guys can kill you. If neither of them are in there, then I'm not too worried about defending Tyler Huntley. He does not frighten me in the least. He wants to throw the ball, throw it all day. Tyler, go ahead. I'll sit here and watch.
Hmm.
But
Yeah,
I damn sure don't have to worry about you.
No.
because you're not going to beat me. And I'm
Yeah,
talking about if I'm the Patriots, and and Mike Vrabel's that kind of guy. It's like he's a run you over, knock you down kind of guy, and he's not going to sit there and go, oh well, what's going to happen here.
Yeah,
Um,
and a lot of credit is due to Mike Vrabel and the Patriots. Drake May has looked really good this year. Obviously, he's in the MVP discussion.
He hit some passes last night that were just gorgeous.
Yeah, he's been the way they talked about it. The way he throws it, it's effortless power on his throws. Like it looks easy for him. But this is a football team that won 4 games last year. The turnaround in 1 year of Mike Vrabel is incredible. I think at least I was of the understanding that Drake May could do this. Given the right supporting cast, given the right coaching staff, that I always thought this was possible with him. I thought it was possible back at UNC. I was honestly shocked that he didn't win more at North Carolina when he was there. But they deserve all the credit in the world for this turnaround. It's really been impressive. I remember talking to a buddy preseason, and we're just talking about it. And I was like, yeah, I think the Patriots they'll be good this year. I'm not saying they're going to be great or even necessarily make the playoffs, but they're going to be a lot better. And I think I gave them I think the total we settled on was like 5.5 games. And I was like, yeah, man, I'll be on the over, you be on the under. Put like $10 on it or whatever. But that was the thought about this Patriot football team coming into the season. I think it was a general consensus. Like people thought maybe they'd be better, but they still had plenty of doubts about them. And poke holes in the resume if you want, but they've won the games that have been on their schedule. And that win last night against Baltimore, I know Lamar Jackson didn't play in it at all, but the way they came back and won and the talent that's still on that team, that's a really good win for New England.
Well, one other thing on Lamar Jackson before we put a button on that one is that he ran on that play. He didn't try to slide. And there was a lot of people saying, well, he got kneed in the back. All right. Well, as a runner, which is what he was doing at the time, he was not sliding. He wasn't, attempting to slide. He was running. The DB got over there, tried to, took an angle on him. He slipped, meaning he being Lamar Jackson slipped. And just as he was slipping down, the guy was diving to make the tackle. His knee hit him in the back. It was, I saw nothing there that was intentional or malicious or in any way. I mean, obviously there was no penalty given to it. And it wasn't a cheap shot. It was, if you're running, and you're playing in that position, and look, I don't want to see anybody get hurt. If you get hit in the back, on a play like that, it wasn't anybody's fault other than, how the play ended up.
Yeah, I think people tend, when they have a big injury, if you're a fan of that team, you tend to think like, especially if you could maybe draw a question about it, that it's like a dirty hit or a dirty play. That more times than not, that's just not the case. But it's typically a fan's way of coping, I would say.
Yeah. So Lamar we don't know about. Toward the end of the game, there was some bouncing about, as to whether or not Tyler Huntley was, was good, but after the game he seems to be fine. So at this point, you look at the AFC, right, and you're thinking, if you told me before the beginning of the season that Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, and Joe Burrows would not be making the playoffs, not playing in the playoffs and getting eliminated, but not playing in the playoffs at all, that would have been something I probably would have thought, well, you know what, that's, come on, that's not going to happen. But it looks like it's going to happen.
Yeah, we talked about it. Probably mathematically they're not dead, but their playoff hopes feel slim to none. Is the way I would describe it, because again, that outside factor of Pittsburgh's starting to figure it out again. Like
Mhm.
they kind of hit a lull in the middle of the season, which has been something that's happened under Mike Tomlin here the last
Yeah.
few years. So they start out strong and then they kind of hit that lull, and then they've kind of limped their way to the end. This one doesn't feel like necessarily they're limping their way to the end. It feels like
No,
they've hit a lull and now they're on the other side of it, and they're really starting to play much better football in Pittsburgh.
I would say in the last 3 games they have started to play much, much better, and it seems to be that Aaron Rodgers has become much more comfortable and engaged with the team. And I'll
Mm-hmm.
tell you, one thing he did, and he's done it twice now in 2 games, is that he just, when they're headed back to the huddle, he's looking at the other side, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he screams, go. Everybody turns, everybody rushes to the line of scrimmage. They get a snap off, and they get a penalty for 12 men on the field.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't know how many quarterbacks in the league can stand there, look over, and see, oh crap, I can get the if we get this ball snapped because it was placed down by the official, and all we got to do is go up and get it, and he does it. That's to me that's pretty damn impressive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it feels like they've maybe started to gel in that locker room more
Hmm.
now than they did
Yeah,
prior.
there's a lot more camaraderie, a lot more believing in Aaron. There's talk in Pittsburgh of even attempting to sign him for another year. I mean, I don't know where we go with that. Yesterday, by the way, was Mike's 200th win as the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. He has not lost a game in. I'm sorry, has not lost had a losing season in the entire 19 years he's been the head football coach at the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah.
Um, so that's a pretty good resume.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he hasn't won a Super Bowl. He's won one Super Bowl, but he hasn't. They haven't gotten there. But the other playoffs all those years, it is what it is. I mean, we'll see how it goes, and we'll see what happens at the end of the season. But I like, as we're talking about coaches who may or may not be there. I like his chances of returning more than I like right now John Harbaugh's chances.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, uh, John Harbaugh seems more of a case where it's almost like it feels like time in a sense. Um, like this competitive window that they have with Lamar Jackson
Mm-hmm.
is by no means closed. But the way things have gone, you feel like their grip is slipping on this competitive window. Derrick Henry is not getting younger year by year. Um,
And he's getting mileage on those wheels.
yeah, so it seems like they might be in a point where this feels like movement is coming, but it's not going to be roster movement. It's going to be coaching staff movement.
Let me ask you something with regard to Lamar, and I have great respect for him. He's a tremendous athlete. He's also a smart guy. I don't think many people give him credit for being incredibly smart. He graduated with honors from Louisville.
Mm-hmm.
He is an actually very introspective, very smart young man. Um, I'm looking at Lamar in a way that I looked at in Seattle when things started to go a little bad for Russell Wilson. When Russ, got bounced around and got hurt, and he could still play and he could still win, but he wasn't exactly who he is. You can't get as many injuries over the past 3 years that Lamar has gotten um, and play at the level he's played without it taking a toll on your body. And I'm not saying that Lamar's and his career has ended, not by any stretch of imagination. I think, however, um, they're going to have to, if Todd Monken, who is, on the short list of about 7 teams right now, as the next head football coach, if Monken is still there, they're going to have to figure out a way to um, keep, keep Lamar healthy. And I think that would start with getting in, fortifying that offensive line more. and understanding that Derrick Henry, I think Derrick has one more year on this contract that he's got with Baltimore, is use him. You brought him in, use the guy.
Mm-hmm.
I think if they can, and they can figure out a way to make that work. I think that that's the process that, of course, he's going to have to go. Whether Mr. Bisciotti, who is not necessarily a guy who is a reactionary owner, but if he feels that this is, it's not like Jim's lost or John's lost the locker room or anything like that. It's just what is the plan? You just, the game plan every year seems to be make the playoffs but don't win, and that's you could argue that case about Tomlin as well, but it just seems to be a stale thing. Now, it might be the same situation that happened years ago in Philly with Andy Reid, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it might be having him leave to go to another place might show that he's successful at, let's say he goes to the Giants and works up there. Maybe that's maybe the change of scenery for both sides is a good thing.
Yeah, at a certain point, I feel like no matter where you are, um, teams tend to get to a point.
Mm-hmm.
Fans seem to get to a point to where good isn't good enough, and you need something better. Like that's not. I don't feel like that's insane to say. There's a lot of places, especially in college, that will fire their head coaches. Even if
Mm-hmm.
I go back, to when Mark Richt was at Georgia,
Mm-hmm.
and for all that Mark Richt did there, he was never bad. They
Mm-hmm.
never had a losing season under him,
Mm-hmm.
but at a certain point, it got to the point to where good wasn't good enough,
Mm-hmm.
and people thought they had the talent and the resources to go out and do a little better. And the same thing is eventually happening.
Mm-hmm.
First it was Mike Tomlin, but Mike Tomlin's the way that team's playing this year is he's bought himself some more time. So
Mm-hmm.
now the heat shifted to an interdivision opponent,
Mm-hmm.
John Harbaugh.
Yeah, it's again, will John Harbaugh have trouble getting a job? No, John, he'll be out of a job for about 45 minutes if Mr. Bisciotti chooses to um, um, to let him go. Um, the fun thing about the Harbaugh deal was that Harbaugh didn't. The job was almost in. They were very close to signing a contract. They had him here for, you know, what, maybe 2 days was, you know, uh, the uh, I'm trying to. For many years. He was the coach at with the Cowboys. Why am I the kid from who played quarterback down there? Um, oh man, I'm having a senior moment here. Let me see what I can. Jason, is it Jay?
Oh, Jason Garrett.
Yeah, Jason Garrett. Thank you. Jason Garrett he and Bisciotti, they hadn't gotten to the handshake agreement yet, but they were damn close.
Mm-hmm.
He gets a text from Jerry Jones saying, "What is going on in Baltimore?" Jason sends him a text back saying, because remember, he was a free agent. He could do whatever he wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
And Jerry goes, "Whatever it is they're offering you, I will match it. Come home." So Jason liked Dallas. He liked Jerry.
Mm-hmm.
Got on a plane, flew back, told Mr. Bisciotti, thank you, but I've decided I'm going back to Dallas. And Ozzie got a call from Andy Reid. Andy Reid said, "Look, I got a guy here who, I think you should interview, give him a shot to at least interview him." They interviewed him. They liked him. He's a well-organized guy. He was a special teams coach, which very seldom do you see that happen. Special teams coach become a head coach. But
Mm-hmm.
Harbaugh was very organized, and he impressed, Bisciotti and Ozzie. And to his credit, he's been a very good football coach. But, you know, um, at this point in time, good may not be good enough, or as we said before, maybe just a change of scenery would be good for both sides.
Yep, absolutely.
But we'll see how that pans out. Another guy who's on the hot seat, fairly or not, Todd Bowles in Tampa.
That
Uh,
I would list that one under interesting, just based on the when I struggle with what I struggle with is when a coach gets put on the hot seat and
mhm.
they've been again disproportionately affected by injuries. That's the way
Yeah,
that Buccaneers team has worked. You say, well, they've gotten people back throughout the year. Yeah, but people have come and people have gone, and it's been a revolving door of who is hurt, who isn't hurt, and you can't create continuity in that way. So whether it be fair or not, I would not back any heat on Todd Bowles' seat, based solely off of this year, because they started off the year impressive, and it feels like they were fighting tooth and nail there for a while just to be able to put things together in terms of the injuries they had on that
yeah.
offensive side of the football.
Well, they had. I mean, the sad part for the Bucks is when they got healthy on offense, they got bad on defense. They
Hmm.
had three of their starters go down in 1 week on the defensive side, and they weren't that. They had bodies gone before. So you got 7 players on the defensive side after you get most of your weapons back. On the offense. So I agree with you that is it fair to do that? No. The problem with Todd is that two guys from his staff, Dave Canales, with the Panthers, and Liam Cohen with the Jacksonville Jaguars, have come out looking like geniuses.
Hmm. Yeah.
Uh, and yesterday, when the Panthers and the were playing against the Buccaneers, it was they played. You can't get any more balanced than those two teams were. They seemed to be pretty much slugging each other punch for punch. And then you know uh, Mike Evans, who will be a Hall of Fame receiver the moment he steps off the field,
Yeah.
um, decided it looked like Baker was going to scramble. And toward the end of the game, it was a drive that they were driving. They were actually close to field goal range, and which would have tied the game up. And Baker was running, and he Mike was running an out route. He was inside the numbers. He was breaking to the sideline so he could catch the ball and get out of bounds. He saw Baker running and thinking, okay, wait a minute, Baker's in trouble. Let me break off the route. So he breaks off the route just as Baker throws the ball, then the ball gets picked. And that ended the game for the Buccaneers. And was that the be all end all of the game? No. It was the Buccaneers did a number of different things that they could have done better and could have won that game without that being a punctuation mark on what it was. But when you have a Hall of Fame receiver doing what he thought was the best thing to do for the quarterback, and the quarterback trying to figure out to make a play, all right, fine, they pick it off. But you got to give both the guys credit for saying, okay, well, we're doing everything we can. We just didn't do it right at that time. It happens to
Hmm.
everybody. But I agree. I think Todd, give him one more year. We'll see how it goes. But Jason Light, addressed the defense. He only drafted one guy, Emeka Buka, on offense. Everything else he did, every other draft choice was a defensive draft choice.
Hmm. Yeah.
So I don't think because you get a lot of talk radio people are going, well, they never addressed the defense. Well, 6 draft choices were defensive draft choices. What exactly? How much? They only had 8 draft choices.
Yeah. The expectation there is that hopefully at least one of those guys pans out for you in the coming season. It is a bit much to expect necessarily a draft class to come in and fill all
Mm-hmm.
of the holes.
Right.
But the expectation is that they come in and they're helpful additions, and they may not fill them entirely, but they're going to help plug them for the time being, and that just has not happened through the back half of the season. They've got leaky
Right.
on the backside.
Well, and the thing was, they weren't actually brought in to step on the field and plug and play. They were
Mm-hmm.
brought in to give some of the starters some time off, and the starters got hurt. So if the starters get hurt, the kids come out and play,
Yep.
and so that was that. But it's going to be interesting. They, as crazy as it sounds, they still aren't eliminated. So if they
Yep.
win the next two games and the Panthers lose a game, then they win. So we'll see how that plays out. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Ironically, we talked about the AFC North with Pittsburgh and Baltimore playing a little bit of a hot potato. Who wants this division? It now looks like the Steelers want the division. I don't know that Dave Canales and Carolina have the juice to win it, but I don't know if Tampa Bay has the healthy enough bodies to win the last two games and end up taking it back. So we'll have to see how that plays out. Those are two divisions where, you know, of the teams we talked about, probably Pittsburgh's the only one that's healthy enough to actually, host a game and with a fighting chance of winning it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's some weaker teams in the playoffs. Pittsburgh's definitely better, especially in reference to Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
Um, again, Carolina, they've found ways to win, and we have to give credit there where it's due,
For sure.
and their ability to find ways to win these football games. But the overall product that they've produced, throughout the what is it they've played 15 games thus far.
Mm-hmm.
Throughout the 15 games they've played has been inconsistent. When they're good, it's a solid product. But
They
when they're
win
bad,
one and lose one.
yeah,
That's pretty much been their MO for the last 3 weeks or 4 or 5 weeks.
yeah, and I mean the rest of the NFC South, specifically the people in Tampa and Atlanta,
Uh-huh.
just given the way those rosters are, they have got to be furious if Carolina finds a way to win this division, because it's a missed opportunity really for both of
Mm-hmm.
those teams.
Yep. 100%. Um, 49ers are in the playoffs. They play tonight against Indiana. If Indianapolis loses, they are not. Their season ends for all intents and purposes if they lose to the 49ers tonight. So we'll have to see how that situation plays. The Colts are on the bubble with the Ravens. Their chances, according to CBS, is 11% if they win. If they lose, 2%.
Mm.
I'm not a mathematician, but 2% is not exactly the kind of odds I'm enjoying if I can help it. So
No, absolutely not. Especially when you're tasked with Philip Rivers going on the road
yeah,
and
well,
beating this 49er defense.
old man Rivers, yeah. And the
Yeah.
49ers want to get healthy and get playing. So I think they're going to play to win so they can kind of move up that chart a little bit and get themselves into a better slot in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see Kyle Shanahan taking the night off.
No, absolutely not.
No.
Absolutely not. No reason to. They need to continue to build that continuity.
Right. You want to get that. You don't want to blow that rhythm off by not playing.
Yeah, building momentum going into the playoffs is huge.
Absolutely. All right. Any final thoughts before we get out of here on a Monday afternoon?
No, I don't have much of anything. Round 2 of the playoffs is really going to be.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty much what you expected in terms of the college football world. But outside of that, just getting ready for.
Wait, I got to give you an opportunity as a Red Sox fan to weigh in on the trade to get Wilson Contreras.
Yeah. So that was positive note, I would say. It's a guy who I think is going to fill the position of need. It's interesting what it signals for Tristan Casas, the young left-hander that they had really kind of pegged as the first baseman for the future. He's went down with some pretty gruesome injuries the last 2 years, just in terms of the time he's been out. Wilson Contreras is there. He's got he's got a couple of years left on his deal, so it's interesting what that signals for him. That now means that, hey, look, now the Red Sox have before that they had one infielder. Now they have two infielders. So somebody's still going to have to play second and third. You would assume Marcelo Meyer is going to fill one of those roles.
Mm-hmm.
But now you go back to the Alex Bregman pursuit and see where that leads you. And if you get Bregman, then maybe you start exploring a trade for a number two. Well, you just got to slowly build out that infield because
remember the Kike Hernandez is still a free agent.
Yeah, there's just not a chance they're going to sign him.
Yeah, probably not. But I mean, the thing is, they don't have to spend money for Contreras.
Yeah, he's
they take over a deal, which is it is spending money, but point being, it's not free agent money.
Yeah, well, that's what I forgot to. I did have there's one team in the league who has not spent a dime in free agency this season.
Mm-hmm.
Any guesses as to who it is?
The Yankees.
That'd be the Red Sox. The Red Sox are the only team
that
have not signed a free agent this offseason. The only acquisitions they have made are via trade, and they've made some solid ones. Oviedo from the Pirates is somebody who's got a lot of upside in terms of his arm and the stuff that he brings from Pittsburgh. Sonny Gray is another solid addition, and Wilson Contreras, obviously, to go along with some ancillary moves. But they've made some additions, but currently the additions they've made, just speaking from what I've seen and I've read, seem to leave Red Sox fans wanting more.
Well, there's some kids out there on some of these other teams that play second base that I imagine if the Red Sox were willing to offer up some trade bait, they could probably pull somebody off of an Athletics or somebody like that.
Yeah,
there's some teams that have some excess infielders that are pretty good. As long as there's some opportunity, it depends. If you want a guy who plays defense and he's not your, you don't have to worry about him, as a hitter. There's probably 10 teams out there that have that guy.
Yeah. What's it called? I mean, heck, as we were live, Jeff McNeil got traded to the Athletics from the Mets. Yeah.
For what?
For what? I think it said some minor league pitching. I didn't actually see an official on it. Yeah. Let's see here.
So they got nothing. The Mets got the minor league pitching back for that?
So the New York Mets received a rookie ball arm, and for some reason, what in the world? So the Mets get a rookie ball arm back from the Athletics in this deal. But then they'll also be sending cash to help cover McNeil's $15.75 million salary, plus the $2 million buyout on a club option for the next year.
That makes no sense at all.
I'm very confused what they gained from that.
But they don't name the kid, huh?
No. But yeah, they got a rookie ball guy.
Okay.
In exchange for Jeff McNeil. I don't know what that is. One thing I will throw out there, at least on the Red Sox front, is the only reporting I've seen about it. I've seen people speculate just based on the based on more logic-based thought process that the Red Sox might be out on Ketel Marte. Bob Nightingale reported that they were. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't really trust a lot of Bob Nightingale's reporting. It feels like he's been more wrong more often than not.
I like Bob, but give me Jeff Passan.
Yeah. Until Jeff says it, I'm not going to believe it. So it'll be interesting in terms of the moves made. But again, it's a step in the right direction. But in terms of the Red Sox offseason, they still feel like they have a ways to go before things feel complete.
In fairness, Buster Olney and Kenny Rosenberg, I believe them too. So.
Yeah. It's just tough with. I think the overall sentiment is it's a little tough when it comes to the baseball reporting in terms of the information and free agency, because agents tell you one thing, GMs tell you another, and everybody's telling you something different somehow.
And some of these guys have good relations with the players themselves.
Yeah.
And I think that's where Passan has the advantage over some. He's very much liked by players and trusted by players.
Yeah.
Because players will tell you things as long as you don't tell other people.
Yeah.
And, they may say, look, I'm in the middle of this, deal. I don't know how it's going to end, but I'll let you know when it happens. There's writers they trust and there's writers they don't. And, there's a handful of really good ones who have created, I don't believe anything an agent tells me.
Oh yeah, no.
Because I know what they're doing. They're trying to jack up the worth of their client, which is fair, good on them. Fair, it's fair play, but just be careful what you write because you never know that who it's benefiting.
Yeah, I mean that's what. Hey, listen, that's what John Heyman's for. So.
That's right. He grabs the press releases and goes with them. So anyway, all right. Just wanted to let you get your Red Sox news in there before we left today.
Yeah,
especially on Wilson Contreras. I think Wilson will be a good ad for the Red Sox.
Yeah, he is. The way his bat and his hitting profile it fits Fenway Park. It's similar to what people talked about with Bregman last year. Is they needed more right-handed balance in the lineup. That gives them it. It gives them a guy that they can play at first base. Their WRC at first base over the last few seasons, when it's not been Tristan Casas, has been under 100. When they have a consistent first base presence, I think Casas had around 120, something like that.
Yeah.
Contreras has offered a 134 in his one season playing first base. The bat fits the park. It's a good move because it gives you stability at a position that it feels like they have literally just been asking anybody, whether they played first base or not, to fill that position for them over the last couple of years while Tristan Casas has been in and out of the lineup.
He's not a Gold Glove first baseman, but he's not going to hurt you.
Yep, exactly. I think he had I think he was at like 3 outs above average during his time at first base. So, it's not mind-blowing, but it gets the job done.
In fairness to him, too, he works at it, which I give him a great deal of credit for. Because guys don't have to do it, but he'll go out there, you'll go out and see him, and he'll be taking ground balls, all day long.
Yeah.
And at his stage of his career, you wouldn't think that Wilson Contreras would care. But he does. He has a great deal of pride in wanting to play that position better. So to his credit, I think, as I say, he may not be a Gold Glove guy, but he's sure as hell not going to hurt you.
Yeah.
So, but I thought the one thing I saw him working on last year in pregame warmups was picking the ball, when on the bounce. He's getting used to the bounce. That's a tough thing to get used to. I don't know that anybody ever gets used to it, but he's working on it. So, I think he's going to be a good ad for the Red Sox.
Yeah, absolutely. So, but again, work to be done.
Indeed. There's always work to be done. So we'll see how it goes. So, all right. Well, Matthew, thank you very much for bringing it to us this afternoon, always with the good knowledge. Hope you all enjoyed our chat this afternoon. Come on back tomorrow. We'll have some more. If you have comments, by all means, leave them for us. We'll be happy to answer them for you. And as the little button keeps saying, as it flashes up there from time to time, give us a like, subscribe, and leave a comment, okay? We don't ask for much, but that'd be helpful. Okay, buddy? All right, gang. Let's have a nice day. See you tomorrow. The end.